Look around your office. Everyone seems frantically busy, typing away, yet your team's actual output is steadily dropping. When deliverables slow down, managers and top employees usually misdiagnose the problem. They assume the department is understaffed or that the workflow is broken. But the friction isn't coming from your software. It is being generated by a specific coworker archetype who actively exploits the gaps in your company's operational processes. Spotting this hidden drain on your resources early is the only way to save your department before the damage becomes permanent. Meet the corporate Barnacle. This is an employee who spends their energy optimizing for systemic manipulation rather than doing any actual work. This split screen shows the departmental divide. Left, the Barnacle's rapid digital communication metrics. Right, the high performer's heavy project completions. Our incentives reward the loud optics of busyness on the left, while overlooking the unseen execution of deep work on the right. So how do you objectively identify these individuals when they are actively camouflaging themselves as your top contributors? Failing to separate genuine effort from an optical illusion forces your most competent workers to shoulder an invisible, unsustainable burden. This is the productivity matrix. It plots management visibility against actual work completed. The Barnacle relies on productivity theater. They optimize for instant chat replies and rapid emails instead of deep, complex work. Because they are constantly chiming in, management incorrectly perceives this high-frequency visibility as intense engagement. This creates a hidden trade-off. The department suffers a drop in actual deliverables, exchanging genuine productivity for a superficial optical illusion. This illusion makes the Barnacle resistant to standard performance reviews. When HR checks their communication logs, the activity levels always look robust. This creates a false baseline of engagement. Managers use it to judge the rest of the department, inflating expectations for communication speed over actual output. Eventually, the Barnacle is unavoidably assigned a piece of complex, deep work. That is when they deploy their second survival tactic. They execute a foundational task with deliberate, critical structural errors that simply cannot be ignored by the rest of the team. These intentional mistakes immediately disrupt the workflow for everyone downstream who relies on the quality of that data. The outcome is highly predictable. A frustrated top performer will step in and take over the botched task just to ensure basic quality standards. For the Barnacle, this is a profitable trade-off. They secure immediate free time and establish strict immunity from future complex assignments. Meanwhile, the high performer loses critical cognitive bandwidth because they are now absorbing this unassigned shadow labor. Weaponized incompetence is a predatory defense mechanism, shifting the labor burden onto the most capable team members instead of reflecting a genuine lack of skill. This raises a massive managerial dilemma. Why does leadership allow this dynamic to persist instead of initiating a termination? Firing someone requires immense bureaucratic effort. It demands exhaustive HR documentation, difficult legal conversations, and immediate financial costs. To avoid this friction but still keep the department functioning, leadership quietly routes all critical workloads away from the Barnacle. On the productivity matrix, we see where that workload goes. A new point appears for performance punishment, transferring work to the high performer. The company avoids an HR headache but penalizes their most valuable assets by pushing them to the brink of failure. This extreme, sustained output from the top performer comes with zero incremental financial reward or structural recognition. Management's path of least resistance inverts the reward structure, actively punishing competence with more labor while rewarding incompetence with leisure. This flowchart illustrates the final, devastating consequence of sustaining this unbalanced ecosystem over a long period. First, the overworked high performer reaches critical burnout and exits the company for better opportunities elsewhere. Second, the unburdened Barnacles realize they have a great deal and have absolutely no incentive to leave, remaining heavily anchored within the department. As the freshwater talent evaporates and the salt remains, the overall competency density of the entire department plummets. Allowing dead weight to remain acts as a systemic contagion, driving away the organization's most valuable, high ROI individuals. Departmental leaders can reverse this collapse before their top talent leaves, but it requires a change in strategy. Managers must ruthlessly audit team performance based exclusively on finalized deliverables. You have to ignore raw communication volume and optical presence entirely. If you are the high performer currently trapped in the cycle of absorbing extra labor, you also have a role to play. You must establish rigid boundaries and refuse to fix botched tasks, forcing the Barnacles' deliberate failures to become highly visible. The cost of inaction is severe. Avoiding the friction of dealing with a Barnacle guarantees the destruction of your team's culture and output. Ultimately, a functioning meritocracy requires the continuous, uncomfortable courage to enforce objective standards and let those optical illusions fail.